My name is Maya Evans. I'm 30 years old and I just landed from Munich. I'd spent the entire week there putting the final signature on the biggest deal of my entire career. I was on top of the world, feeling like nothing could stop me. I drove the rental car from Chicago O'Hare straight to my parents' house in the suburbs. I wasn't going there to visit them, not really. I was there for one reason, to pick up my car, my dark gray Ford Mustang, my baby, the car I'd earned, the one I kept safely tucked away in their garage while I was traveling for work. I pressed the button on the garage door opener clipped to the rental's visor. The door groaned as it slowly lifted, unveiling an empty space. There was nothing there, just a bare concrete floor with a single faint oil stain where my car was supposed to be. My Mustang was gone. My heart just stopped beating for a second. I stumbled into the house, my carry-on bag thudding against the floor. They were all there, waiting for me. My mother, my father, and my younger sister, Chloe. They were all seated around the kitchen table like a panel of judges, their faces completely unreadable. They weren't surprised to see me. It was clear they'd been waiting to deliver a verdict. And what they admitted to me in that kitchen didn't just shatter my trust. It completely redefined my understanding of family and made me realize, with painful clarity, that I had never truly been a part of theirs. Before we get into the heart of it, please do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories, and drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from today. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. That Mustang wasn't just a toy. It wasn't some gift someone handed me. It was the physical manifestation of 6 years of my life. I'm a senior consultant at Apex Global Strategies, which is a nice way of saying I live in a world of high-pressure deadlines and impossible expectations. I handle international accounts, which means my life is a constant cycle of airports, sterile meeting rooms, and the blue light of my phone. My work weeks aren't a standard 40 hours. They're 70, sometimes 80 hours long. I've eaten more lukewarm takeout dinners hunched over my keyboard than I could possibly count. I've missed so much. I missed weddings. I missed my best friend Olivia's bachelorette party in Cabo. I skipped every vacation. While my friends were backpacking through Asia or road tripping across the country for fun, I was doing the same thing for work. Munich, London, Singapore. I did this relentlessly for 6 straight years. I clawed my way up the corporate ladder. I made fantastic money, but I never had a single moment to actually enjoy it. My grandfather, Arthur Evans, was the one person who truly got it. He passed away 3 years ago. He was my father's dad, but they were nothing alike. Grandpa Arthur was quiet, principled, and he saw me in a way no one else in my family ever did. When I was a little girl, he'd take me out to his workshop. It always smelled of sawdust and motor oil, a scent I still find comforting. He's the one who taught me how to change a tire, how to check the oil. He gestured to his old, beautifully restored pickup truck, and a gentle smile would cross his face. "These machines aren't just metal, May," he'd tell me, wiping grease from his weathered hands. "They're freedom. They're proof. Proof that you can work hard for something, build it, earn it. You can put your whole dream into something solid that you can actually touch." And he was the only one who didn't see my grueling hours as a problem. He saw my ambition as a strength. My parents just saw my career as a convenient excuse for my absence. "Oh, Maya can't make it. She's working, you know." When Grandpa Arthur died, he left me some money. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to be a foundation. He left Chloe the exact same amount. She blew hers on a trip to Italy and a designer wardrobe she wore once. I put every single penny into a high-yield savings account. And then I started adding to it. Every bonus I received, every check for overtime hours, I funneled it straight into that account. I had one singular goal. I was saving for that dark gray Ford Mustang. It was the car he and I had always daydreamed about. It was powerful, it was American, and it was the culmination of everything I had worked for. The day I finally bought it, I drove to the dealership all by myself. I paid for it in cash. As I signed the paperwork, the salesman handed me the keys. I slipped into the driver's seat. The smell of new leather filled the air. I closed my eyes and I could see my grandfather's proud face in my mind. I rested my forehead against the steering wheel and I just cried. I cried because I had actually done it. I had turned my dream into something solid. It was mine. In my family, my dreams were always seen as secondary. It was Chloe's dreams that held all the importance. I vividly remember Chloe's 16th birthday. My parents threw this enormous party in the backyard. There must have been 50 people there. They hired a professional DJ. They rented a huge white tent. They had a tiered cake that was practically taller than she was. I remember watching the whole scene from the kitchen window because I was on dish duty, washing the caterers' plates. My own 16th birthday had been just a few months earlier. I'd spent it working a 6-hour shift at a pretzel stand in the mall. When I finally got home, exhausted, my mom handed me a single sad-looking cupcake from the grocery store. "We'll celebrate properly another time, honey," she'd said. "Things are a little tight right now." They weren't tight. They were just saving every penny for Chloe's blowout party. When Chloe graduated from high school, they rented a white stretch limousine. My father, my mother, my aunt, and my uncle all piled in with Chloe and her giggling friends. They went to some ridiculously expensive restaurant downtown. I was in my second year of college at the time, working 2 jobs just to afford my textbooks. I couldn't even afford a plane ticket home to see it. When I graduated from college, summa cum laude no less, I sat in the vast audience and waited for them. I had paid for my own flight. All they had to do was show up. An hour before the ceremony was set to begin, I got a text message. "Flight delayed, so sorry, we'll celebrate when you get home." I knew instantly it was a lie. I saw a picture on social media later that day. Chloe had a minor head cold, and my mother had stayed home to take care of her. My father, as usual, just went along with it. I sat utterly alone in a sea of cheering families. My best friend, Olivia, found me after the ceremony and took a picture of me holding my diploma. She was the only family I had that day. But the worst was Christmas of 2018. I had flown in from a business trip completely drained. I had brought beautiful, expensive gifts for everyone. What did I get? A department store sweater. It was beige. It wasn't even my size. Then my dad told everyone to go outside. Parked in the driveway was a brand new, bright blue compact car with a giant red bow stuck to the hood. It was for Chloe. She was 22 at the time and had just quit her 3rd job in a year. She needed reliable transportation to find herself. I just stood there, looking at her shiny new car, then thinking about my beige sweater. My father was beaming, absolutely glowing with pride. My mother was actually crying tears of joy. "Isn't it wonderful, Maya?" my mom asked me. Now she can really get her life started. I just nodded numbly. I had been started on my life since I was 16 years old working at a pretzel stand. My Mustang was different. I bought it myself. I never asked them for a dime. I only asked for one single thing, to keep it safe in their garage while I was overseas. It was the only thing I had that was purely and completely mine. So when I stood in that empty garage and then walked into that kitchen, I wasn't just looking at an empty space on the floor. I was looking at a pattern. I was looking at the entire blueprint of my life, and I already knew the answer before a single one of them said a word. My car was gone, and I knew exactly who was responsible. I stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, the strap of my travel bag digging painfully into my shoulder. The silence in that room was suffocating. My father, Mark, just stared into his coffee mug like it held the secrets to the universe. My mother, Sarah, was nervously picking at her cuticles. Chloe was staring at her phone, pretending I didn't exist. "Where's my car?" My voice was low, but it was unnervingly steady. It scared me a little, how calm I sounded on the outside. My mother finally looked up. She attempted a smile, but it crumbled on her face. "Maya, honey, you're home. How was Munich?" "Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Where is my car?" My mom let out a long, theatrical sigh. She stood up and walked toward me, reaching out as if to comfort me. I took a sharp step back. I didn't want her to touch me. "We need to talk about that," she said softly, using the same tone she used when I was a child who had scraped her knee. "Chloe needed some funds. It's just for a little while." I turned my gaze to Chloe. She was 27 years old and had never managed to hold down a job for more than 6 months. "Funds for what?" "It's my new business," Chloe chirped, her voice suddenly bright and full of a brittle, fake excitement. "It's a curated clothing line, an online boutique. It's going to be huge, Maya. I even have a whole vision board." A vision board. They had taken my car, my 6 years of grinding, my one tangible dream, for a vision board. "You pawned my car," I stated. It wasn't a question. "We didn't pawn it, Maya," my mother snapped, as if the word itself was offensive. "We took a small loan against it. Chloe has a wonderful idea, and she just needed a little startup capital. You know, family helps family." That sentence struck me like a physical blow. Family helps family. In the Evans household, that was a one-way street. It meant Maya gives and Chloe takes. It meant I was the workhorse and she was the perpetual project. "You make more than enough money," Mom continued, her voice gaining strength as she constructed her defense. "It's just a car. You're successful. You can absorb this. Chloe just needs a chance." Your father and I agreed. It was a family decision. I turned to my father. He was a big man, but in that moment he looked incredibly small, hunched over his mug. "Dad? You agreed to this? You let them take my car?" He finally met my eyes. They were filled with guilt, but also with weakness. "She's your sister, May. She just needed a little help." "You'll get the car back." "When?" I demanded. "When her vision board magically takes off? She has no business plan. She has no experience. You didn't give her a loan. You gave her my car. You threw it away. You'll understand when it's successful," Chloe shouted, jumping to her feet. "You're just jealous. You're jealous that I'm finally doing something on my own." I let out a laugh. It was a horrible, hollow sound. There was no humor in it. It was pure grief. It was the sound of something inside me shattering for the very last time. "On your own? You used my car. You didn't even have the decency to ask me. You stole from me. And you too," I said, looking at my parents. "You stood by and let her. You helped her. That is enough." My mother yelled, her face red. "We are your parents. We did what we thought was best. It is done. The money is already invested. You will not speak to your sister that way." I just stared at her. Invested. It was all gone. My car, my work, my one solid dream. Vanished. I picked up my bag. "I'm going to a hotel." "Don't be so dramatic, Maya," my mother said, her voice dripping with exasperation. I didn't answer. I just walked out the front door, got into my rental, and drove away. I cried the entire way to the nearest Marriott. I wasn't just crying for the car. I was crying for the little girl who sold pretzels on her own birthday. I was crying for the college graduate who sat alone in the stands. I was crying because I finally, truly understood. I wasn't their daughter. I was their utility. I checked into the hotel and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, sterile room. As the initial shock began to fade, a cold, hard anger started to crystallize in its place. I knew my family. I knew they would lie, downplay, and hide the details. I needed to know the whole truth. Later that night, I drove back. I parked the rental a block away and waited, watching the house until the lights went out one by one. I still had my old house key on my keychain. I let myself in. The house was dead quiet. I went straight for the kitchen. My father always took out the trash before bed, but he was lazy about it. He'd pull the full bag out of the can and leave it tied up by the back door to take to the curb in the morning. I found the bag. Slowly, quietly, I untied the knot. I didn't have to dig very far. Right on top was a crumpled piece of yellow paper, a receipt. I smoothed it out under the harsh light of my phone's screen. Keystone Collateral Loan. I saw the item description, 2022 Ford Mustang, dark gray. I saw the loan amount, $42,000, and then I saw the due date. It was in 30 days. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of the receipt, on the customer's signature line, was a scrawled name. I knew my mother's elegant cursive. I knew my father's blocky print. This was neither. It was shaky, trying desperately to be my handwriting. Someone had forged my name. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't a family decision. This wasn't a loan. This was a crime. They didn't just take my car. They had forged my signature. They had committed fraud. I took a clear picture of the pawn ticket, carefully placed it back in the trash, retied the bag, and left. I walked out of that house for the last time. They hadn't just pawned my car. They had pawned me. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I hadn't slept at all. I just sat in the silent hotel room, staring at the picture of the pawn ticket on my phone. The shaky, fraudulent signature. Maya Evans. It looked like a mockery of my own name. I got dressed. I put on my armor, a sharp black blazer, tailored slacks, and low heels, my work uniform. I gathered my documents, my driver's license, my passport, my employee ID from Apex, and a copy of the car's title, which I always kept in my personal files. I organized everything into a neat leather portfolio. I was eerily calm. I was focused. This wasn't a family squabble anymore. This was a business transaction gone horribly wrong. I drove to Keystone Collateral. It was in a rougher part of Chicago. The windows were barred and the neon open sign flickered erratically. I pulled the rental into the small, cracked parking lot. When I walked in, the air was thick with the smell of stale cigarettes, desperation, and a cheap citrus air freshener that wasn't fooling anyone. A man and a woman were at the counter, arguing with an employee in hushed, angry whispers over a guitar. I stood back and waited, feeling completely out of place. My car did not belong here. Finally, it was my turn. The man behind the counter was named Gordon Miles, according to a name tag pinned crookedly to his polo shirt. He looked exhausted, with deep bags under his eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, not even looking up from his computer screen. "I'm here about a vehicle," I said, my voice perfectly level. "A 2022 dark gray Ford Mustang, brought in about 5 days ago." Now he looked up, surprised. I clearly didn't fit his usual clientele. "You the one who pawned it?" "No," I said firmly. "I'm the one who owns it. It was brought in without my consent." Gordon let out a heavy sigh. He'd heard this story before. "Ma'am, I can't give out any information unless you're the person on the ticket." "I have the ticket number," I said, showing him the picture on my phone. He typed it in. "Yeah, the Mustang." "Nice car," he mumbled. "Loan for $42,000, plus storage fees and interest. It's all in the file." He pulled a thick manila folder from a filing cabinet behind him and slapped it on the counter. "I need to see the loan agreement," I said. He hesitated. "I'm not really supposed to—" "I am Maya Evans," I stated, sliding my driver's license across the counter toward him. "My name is on that file. I need to see the signature." He glanced at my license, then at my face. He opened the file and turned it around for me to see. And there it was, the official loan document. At the bottom, the signature, Maya Evans. It was even worse up close than on the receipt. The M was too rounded, the loop on the Y was wobbly, and the final S in Evans was flat and lifeless. "That is not my signature," I said quietly. Gordon's expression shifted from tired to annoyed. "Ma'am, we have the title. We have the signature. The person who came in had a valid ID." "No, they didn't," I said. I opened my portfolio. I laid my passport next to my driver's license. Then I took a pen from my purse, grabbed a slip of paper from the counter, and signed my name. "This is my signature. Look at the curve on the final S. Look at the M, compare them." I pointed directly at the forgery. "This is fraud." Gordon Miles was not a stupid man. He looked at the forged document, at my 3 forms of official identification, and at the signature I had just written. The color drained from his face. He knew I was right. One moment," he stammered. He snatched up the file and disappeared into a back office. I waited, looking at the wall of sad-looking guitars and the display case of pre-owned rings. I felt a chill despite the stuffy air. This was real. A different man emerged. He was older, wearing a cheap tie and a strained expression. This had to be the manager. "Ma'am, I'm Mr. Harris. Gordon tells me there's a discrepancy with your vehicle." I explained the situation again, calmly, simply. My family pawned my car without my knowledge. They forged my signature on the loan document. You are in possession of a stolen vehicle. Mr. Harris was all business. He knew exactly what this meant. He knew the legal jeopardy his shop was in for accepting a fraudulent title loan. He sifted through the file. "The person who brought it in had a copy of your passport." "My parents," I said. "They must have taken it from my files at their house. It was a copy, not the original. Your policy and the law requires you to verify with an original government-issued document. Your employee failed to do so." Mr. Harris's jaw tightened. He was angry now, but not at me. He was furious at his employee and at my family. He retreated to his office. I could hear him on the phone, his voice fast and low. He was talking to his lawyers. He came back out, his face pale. "Miss Clark," he began. "Evans," I corrected him. "Miss Evans. It appears you are correct. The signature does not match your identification. The ID used was a photocopy. This is a serious problem." "Yes, it is," I said. "So what happens now?" "We have to treat this as a crime," he said, rubbing his forehead. "We will, of course, cooperate fully. We need to file a police report immediately. We'll hand over the entire file, the security footage of the person who brought it in, everything. The police will then retrieve your vehicle." He reached for the phone. My heart hammered against my ribs. A police report. This was the moment. I could send them to jail. My mother, my father, Chloe. I pictured my mother in handcuffs. I pictured my father's ashamed face. I pictured Chloe's life imploding. It would be justice. But I stopped him. "Number." Mr. Harris paused, his hand hovering over the phone. "What? Ma'am, this is a felony. Identity theft, title fraud." "I know what it is," I said, my voice low, "but I am not filing a police report. Not yet, but why? They stole from you." "They are my family," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "Before I call the police, I am going to give them one chance to fix this. How much is the total amount owed with all fees to get my car back today?" He tapped a few keys on his computer. "With the interest, storage, and penalties, it's $44,550. I nodded. "And how long do I have until the loan defaults and the car is sold at auction?" 30 days from the loan date. "So, you have 25 days left." "Thank you, Mr. Harris," I said, collecting my IDs and putting them back in my portfolio. "You will not call the police. You will wait. If my family does not pay you back, I will. And then I will handle them. But I'm not sending them to prison. Not before I've planned how." I walked out of the pawn shop into the blinding sunlight. I had the truth. I had the power. I had confirmed it was fraud. And now I had a choice. I wasn't ready to destroy them. Not yet. I was ready to make them understand. I was ready to make them pay. I drove back to the hotel, but I couldn't bring myself to go inside. I couldn't just sit in that quiet, empty room. There was too much anger coursing through me. The confirmation from the pawn shop had made everything so much worse. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. It was a cold, calculated crime. They had forged my name. I found myself driving, almost on autopilot, back to my parents' neighborhood. I parked the rental down the street and just sat there, staring at the house I grew up in. It looked so painfully normal. A nice suburban home in a Chicago suburb, a neatly manicured lawn, a big oak tree in the front yard that I used to climb as a kid. It looked like a happy home. It was a complete lie. I saw that my mother's car was gone, as was my dad's truck. Chloe's little blue car, the one they'd bought her for Christmas, was also missing. She was probably out investing my $42,000 on more glitter glue for her vision boards. I went inside. The house was empty. The silence was heavy. I went into the living room. On the bookshelf stood a long row of thick, leather-bound photo albums. My mother was obsessed with documenting our lives. I pulled one down. Chloe and Maya, 1996 to 2005. I opened it. The first 10 pages were all Chloe. Chloe's first ballet recital with my mom in the front row. I was there too, clapping for her. Chloe's first t-ball game with my dad as the coach. I flipped a few more pages and found my 9th birthday. There was one single picture of me in the backyard with a store-bought cake. The very next page was Chloe's 7th birthday. A full 2-page spread, a bouncy castle, a hired clown, a crowd of 20 other kids. I pulled down another album, the high school years. This one was almost entirely dedicated to Chloe. Page after page of her at the prom in a glittering dress, at her choir concert, in her cheerleading uniform. Chloe, Chloe, Chloe. I found the section for her 16th birthday party. The DJ, the massive cake, my mom and dad hugging her, both of them beaming with pride. I searched for my own photos. I found one of me at my high school graduation. I was standing alone, holding my diploma. I had been valedictorian. I remembered that day clearly. My parents were there, but they sat in the back. They said they didn't want to make a fuss. After the ceremony, they said they were in a hurry because Chloe had a soccer tournament. We didn't even go out for a celebratory lunch. I kept flipping. I found the pictures from that Christmas in 2018. Chloe screaming with joy, hugging my father in front of her new blue car. There were a dozen pictures of the car, the bow, Chloe in the driver's seat. I finally found one picture of me from that day. I was sitting on the sofa holding up the ugly beige sweater. My smile was painfully tight. I looked exhausted. I looked invisible. I slammed the book shut. I felt sick to my stomach. It was all right there. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't me being too sensitive, as my mother always claimed. It was the truth. Documented in glossy 4x6 photos, I was the responsible one, the reliable one, so I became the invisible one. Chloe was the project, the one who constantly needed help and support and celebration. I was just the bank. As I sat there on the floor, surrounded by the physical proof of my lifelong emotional neglect, the house phone on the end table rang, startling me. I glanced at the caller ID. Uncle David. Uncle David was my dad's brother, and he was cut from the same cloth as my grandpa Arthur, a straight talker. I hadn't spoken to him in months. I picked up the phone. Maya? Is that you? His voice was a deep, reassuring rumble. Hi, Uncle David. I'm glad I caught you. Your father called me this morning. My stomach clenched. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was trying to spin some story. Wanted me to talk to you, to talk some sense into you. Said you were all upset about some money for Chloe. He told you that? He did. And I told him he was a damn fool. My uncle's voice was laced with anger. Then I called your mother. She's the one I'm really mad at. She's already spinning this, Maya. She's calling the whole family, telling everyone that you're selfish, that you're sitting on a pile of money from your fancy job and you won't help your poor sister. I squeezed my eyes shut. Of course she was. She was already painting me as the villain. Don't you believe a word of it, kid, Uncle David said, his voice hard as steel. I knew something like this was coming. They've been letting Chloe get away with murder her whole life. And you've been paying the price for it. What they did is wrong. It's not helping. It's theft. Don't you let them gaslight you. Tears welled in my eyes. It was the first time anyone in my family had ever taken my side, had ever validated my feelings. Thank you, Uncle David. It's worse than you think. They forged my name. The line went silent for a moment. They what? He said, his voice dangerously low. Mark let that happen? I was at the pawn shop this morning. I confirmed it. That's it, he said decisively. I'm flying in. I'll be there tomorrow. Don't you do anything. Don't talk to them. You and I are going to handle this. This isn't just wrong, Maya. It's criminal. He hung up before I could even say goodbye. I felt a tiny flicker of hope. I wasn't alone in this. Just a few minutes later, the phone rang again. I looked at the caller ID. Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, my mother's loyal soldier. I knew exactly what this call was going to be. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. It immediately started ringing again. She wasn't giving up. I picked it up. Hello? Maya, honey. Oh, thank goodness. I've been so worried. Her voice was syrupy sweet, but with a sharp, brittle edge. Your mother called me. She is just beside herself. So worried about Chloe, and she's so hurt by how you're acting. I said nothing. I just listened. Maya, they were just trying to help your sister, Aunt Carol said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. You know how hard it is for Chloe. She's so creative, but she just struggles. You, on the other hand, you've always been the strong one, the smart one. Everything just comes so easy for you, easy. My 70-hour work weeks were easy. Can't you show a little compassion, honey? She pushed. It's just a car. Family is more important than a piece of metal. Your mother is worried you're going to split the family apart over this. Just forgive them. It's what family does. The rage that had been simmering inside me went perfectly, icily cold. She was right about one thing. I was going to split the family. I was going to split it right down the middle. Aunt Carol, I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. They didn't borrow my car. They committed a felony. They forged my signature and stole $42,000 in my name. Oh, Maya, don't be so dramatic, she scoffed. Felony is such an ugly word. They're your parents. They did it for your sister. It's the correct word, I said. You need to let this go, she ordered, her voice losing its sweetness and turning sharp. You are upsetting your mother. You are being selfish. I looked down at the photo album on the floor, at my tiny, invisible face next to Chloe's bright, shining, celebrated life. Goodbye, Aunt Carol, I said. Maya, you listen to me. I hung up the phone. I clicked the off button, ending the call, ending the conversation. The battle lines were drawn. Uncle David was on his way. The pawn shop was waiting, and my family had absolutely no idea what was coming for them. After leaving my parents' house, I drove back to the hotel. I sat in my room for an hour, just staring at the beige walls, letting the silence settle around me. The fiery anger was gone, burned out. In its place was something cold and heavy, like stone. I had the truth. I had the photo of the pawn ticket. I had the damning evidence in the photo albums. I had Uncle David on his way. I had the pawn shop's confirmation of fraud. I had the felony, but I was missing one final piece. I needed to see Chloe. I needed to see her face and hear her side of the story with no one else in the room to run interference. I needed to look her in the eyes. I picked up my phone, my fingers steady as I typed out a text. Coffee. Noon. The copper pot on Main. Just us. She read it almost immediately. The 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. She was typing, then deleting, probably showing the text to my mother, trying to craft the perfect response. Finally, a simple okay came through. The copper pot was a neutral zone, a place we sometimes went in high school. It smelled of burnt coffee and sugary pastries. I got there 20 minutes early and ordered a black coffee. I sat at a small table in the back corner, facing the door, and waited. She was late. Of course she was. Chloe had never been on time for anything in her life. It was part of her chaotic charm. The world was expected to wait for Chloe. She finally walked in at 12:15 wearing oversized dark sunglasses, a designer jacket, and jeans that probably cost more than my first car. Even when she was supposed to be in a crisis, she looked expensive. She spotted me and flinched, then walked toward the table like a student heading to the principal's office. She slid into the booth opposite me, keeping her sunglasses on. "Hi, Maya," she whispered. I didn't say hello. I just looked at her, waiting. She finally took off the sunglasses. Her eyes were red and puffy. She'd been crying, but I didn't feel an ounce of pity. I didn't feel anything at all. "Mom told me you went to the house," she said. "Where's the money, Chloe?" I asked. my voice flat. She looked down at the table. It's invested. I told you. I paid a supplier for the first run of inventory. And the website designer and for marketing? Show me the business plan, I said. What? She looked confused. The business plan. The one you showed Mom and Dad. The plan that was so brilliant they agreed to commit a felony and pawn my car for it. Show it to me. Right now. She hesitated, her hands trembling. Maya, it's not really finalized. Show me. Or I get up and walk out, and the next person I talk to is a police officer. That word, police, landed like a punch. She reached into her expensive handbag and pulled out a flimsy pink school folder. She slowly slid it across the table. I opened it. I stared. I thought I was prepared for what I would see. I was wrong. It wasn't a business plan, it was a scrapbook. The first page was her vision board. She'd cut pictures out of magazines, Vogue, Elle, images of models on beaches and expensive shoes. In the middle, she had used a glitter pen to write Chloe's Closet, the future of fashion. I turned the page. It was a list of potential brand names, like Chloe Chic and Labelle Chloe. The next page had a few sheets of printer paper with crude sketches of simple t-shirts and sundresses. They were like a child's drawings. The very last page was a single sheet with a few numbers scrawled on it. Website, $5,000. Marketing, Instagram, $10,000. Inventory, first run, $30,000. That was it. No supplier contracts, no financial models, no profit and loss projections, no market research, nothing. $42,000 of my money, gone, based on magazine clippings and glitter glue. I closed the folder. The air left my lungs in a rush. I looked at her. "This is it?" I asked, my voice a hollow whisper. "You stole my car enough for this?" That's when she broke. The tears she'd been holding back spilled over, and she started sobbing right there in the middle of the coffee shop. People were starting to look. "I didn't know it would be like this," she cried, pulling at her hair. I thought it would be easy." "You thought it would be easy," I repeated, the words dead in my mouth. "Yes, you don't understand," she said, her voice rising. "Everyone always looks at you. Maya, the big consultant. Maya, making so much money. Maya, so smart, so strong. You're perfect. I am not perfect, Chloe. I work every single day. No, you don't get it." She practically screamed. "I just wanted one thing. I wanted one chance to prove I could do something. Everyone compares me to you my entire life. Mom, Dad, even Uncle David. It's always, why can't you be more like Maya?" I thought if I had this one successful thing, they would finally see me. I just stared at her. I had waited my entire life for an apology, for her to see the damage she'd caused. And here she was, in a coffee shop, crying because it was hard to be my sister. She was the victim, again. She had stolen my dream, my security, and my trust. And somehow, she was still the victim. A cold, hard realization settled in my stomach like a lead weight. She would never get it. She was fundamentally incapable of it. She was a black hole. And my parents had spent 27 years throwing their love, their money, and now my money into it, trying to fill it. It would never be full. I started to slide out of the booth. "Wait," she said, grabbing my arm. Her hand was wet with tears. I pulled my arm away. "Please, Maya," she whispered, her voice desperate. "Please don't tell the police. I just need a little more money." I froze. I thought I had misheard her. "What did you say?" "The website guy. He said he needs more for the e-commerce part, and the supplier wants more up front for the next shipment. It's just a little bit. Maybe 10,000? If I can just get it to launch, I know it will work. I'll pay you back. I'll pay all of it back, I swear." I looked at her. She was begging me for more money. After the fraud, after the theft, after everything, she was asking me for another $10,000. That was it. The last tiny frayed thread of connection I felt for her. Any lingering sisterly bond just turned to dust and blew away. I stood up and picked up my coffee cup. "Not one more penny, Chloe," I said, my voice calm and final. "You will never get another penny from me. Not for this, not for anything." "Maya, please, you're ruining my life," she cried. "You ruined your own life, Chloe," I said. "You just used my name to do it." I walked away from the table. I didn't look back. I left her there, sobbing over her scrapbook of broken dreams. She wanted to build something, to prove she was special. But she was just like them. She thought she could build her future on my bones. Not this time. Uncle David flew in that night. He didn't go to my parents' house. He got a room at my hotel. We met in the lobby. He was a big man, tall and solid like my grandfather. He gave me a hard, one-armed hug. "You okay, kid?" he asked. "I will be," I said. "Good, because we're not letting this go." We spent an hour in the hotel's business center. I showed him the pawn ticket, told him about the forgery, and laid out Chloe's pathetic business plan. His face grew darker with every word. "They've coddled her into a criminal," he said, shaking his head. "And your father, Mark. He just lets Sarah run all over him. He's a coward." "He is," I agreed. "Tomorrow," Uncle David said, his voice firm, "we end this. We go over there, you and me. We lay it all out. No more whispers, no more, 'let's not upset Chloe.' We tell them the truth. Are you ready for that?" "I'm ready," I said. I was ready. But they weren't. My phone rang the next morning. It was my mother. Her voice was fake cheerful. "Maya, honey, your father and I, we want everyone to be together. We're having a family dinner tonight, 6 p.m. Please come, it's time to talk." I knew what this was. It was a summons, an ambush. They were going to circle the wagons and talk at me until I agreed to forgive and forget. "I'll be there," I said, "and I'm bringing Uncle David." The line went silent for a beat. "David? Why?" "This is a family matter." "He is family," I said. "We'll see you at 6. I hung up before she could argue. We walked up to the front door at 6 p.m. on the dot. My stomach was in knots, but I kept my face a calm, unreadable mask. I was carrying my leather portfolio. My mother opened the door. When she saw Uncle David standing behind me, her face went pale. She knew this wasn't going to go her way. "David? What a surprise." "Hello, Sarah," he said, his voice cold as ice. We walked into the dining room. They had set the table with the good china, the expensive plates and silver we only used for Christmas or Thanksgiving. This was a performance, an attempt to pretend we were a normal, loving family having a normal dinner. It was a blatant sign of fear. My father was at the head of the table. Chloe was sitting to his right, her eyes glued to her plate. She looked terrified. "Maya, David. Glad you could make it," my dad mumbled, not making eye contact. "Let's skip the small talk, Mark," Uncle David said, pulling out a chair for me before sitting down himself. "We're here, Maddie," my mom said, ignoring David and forcing a smile at me as she sat down. "I know things have been tense. Chloe is having a very rough time right now. Her idea. Well, it's not working out. She's going to lose the money. She was setting the stage. Poor Chloe failed. We must all feel sorry for poor Chloe. This isn't a failure, Mom," I said, my voice cutting through the tension. "This is theft." My mother flinched. "That is a terrible word, Maya." "It's the right word," I said. "Now, honey," my dad finally spoke, trying to sound paternal. "We were just trying to help your sister. We thought we were helping." "By committing fraud?" I asked. I placed my leather portfolio on the table. It made a solid, heavy thud. "Is that how you help people? By forging their signature? By stealing their property?" Chloe burst into tears. "I didn't mean to—" "Be quiet, Chloe," Uncle David said. He wasn't yelling, but his voice carried so much authority that she instantly choked back a sob. We thought you'd understand," my mother whispered. "We were going to pay it back before you even knew." "I don't think you were," I said. I opened the folder and pulled out the first paper. I had printed out the Illinois state statutes on identity theft. I had printed the penalties for title fraud. I slid the paper across the table to my father. "What is this?" he asked, his hands shaking. "That is your future, Dad. 2 to 5 years in prison. Forgery is a Class 3 felony. So is identity theft. You didn't just help Chloe. You and Mom committed multiple felonies. All 3 of you are involved." My mother's face went white. She looked like she was going to be sick. You wouldn't," she whispered. "You wouldn't send your own parents to prison. We're your family." "You keep using that word," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "I don't think you know what it means. You weren't family when you signed my name. You weren't family when you let Chloe do this. You were just thieves." I looked directly at my mother. "I don't want to, but I will if I have to. You have left me no other choice." The room was completely silent. The only sound was Chloe's quiet, hiccuping sobs. My father stared at the paper. My mother stared at me. For the first time, she finally saw me. She saw that I wasn't her little girl anymore. I was the one holding all the power. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. My mom looked confused. "I'm not expecting anyone." She got up and went to the door. We heard muffled voices. A moment later, my mother walked back into the dining room, her face grim. My best friend, Olivia, was with her. I was stunned. "Liv, what are you doing here?" Olivia looked at me, then shot a furious glare at my family. "Your uncle called me Maya. He told me what was happening. I'm not letting you go through this alone." Uncle David stood up. I called her. "Because this isn't just a family matter, Sarah. This is an intervention, and Maya needs her real family here." Olivia walked over and stood directly behind my chair. Uncle David sat back down next to me. "What you did to her, Mark," Uncle David said, his voice shaking with a rage he could barely contain, "is unforgivable. This isn't helping your daughter. It's destroying both of them. You've been doing it their whole lives. You coddle one and you abuse the other. You've thrown Maya under the bus for long enough." He pointed a trembling finger at my father. "You are a weak man, and you," he said, turning to my mother, "have been poisoning this family for 30 years. But that stops tonight." He looked at me, putting a heavy hand on my shoulder. Olivia put her hand on my other one. "Someone needs to speak for Maya," he said, his voice raw, "and from now on, that's going to be us." I looked at my parents. They were just staring, completely outnumbered and outmaneuvered. My father looked broken. My mother looked, for the first time in her entire life, beaten. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the invisible one, and for the first time in my life, I was heard. The showdown at the dinner table wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the end. The very next day, I got a call from Mr. Harris at the pawn shop. His voice was strained. "Miss Evans, we have a problem. Our underwriters are reviewing the fraudulent loan. They want the car off our books. They're moving up the auction date." My heart stopped. "What?" "You said I had 25 days. We did. But the fraud changes things. They don't want the liability. They are giving you 10 days. 10 days to pay the full amount, $44,550. If you don't, it goes to public auction. I'm sorry. My hands are tied. 10 days. 10 days to come up with almost $50,000. I hung up the phone, shaking. I immediately called Uncle David and Olivia. We met in my hotel room. "They can't do this," I said, pacing the room. "They can, kid," Uncle David said grimly. "It's their property until it's paid for. And right now, it's a hot potato they want to get rid of. So what do we do?" Olivia asked. "Do you have that much liquid cash, Maya?" "No," I said, my voice tight. "Not liquid. Most of my savings are tied up in retirement accounts and stocks. If I pull it out, the tax penalties would be massive, and it would take days to clear. We don't have days." "Then they have to pay it," Uncle David said, picking up his phone. "I'm calling your father." He put the call on speakerphone. My dad picked up on the first ring. "David?" "Mark." You have a new problem. The pawn shop is selling the car in 10 days. You need to come up with $44,550. Now." The line was silent. I could hear my mother's panicked voice in the background. What is it?" "We don't have that, David," my dad finally said, his voice a weak whisper. "We don't have anything close to that." "Then you better get it," Uncle David said coldly. "Sell Chloe's car. The blue one you bought her. That's a start. Sell your wife's jewelry. Take a second mortgage on the house. I don't care. You created this mess. You have 10 days to fix it. Or Maya goes to the police. This is your only chance." He hung up. The next 10 days were the longest of my life, a countdown to either redemption or complete ruin. The scramble began, and it was pathetic to watch. Chloe put her blue car up for sale, but she had treated it poorly. It was filthy, and she had smoked in it. The best offer she got was $8,000, far less than they'd paid. She took it crying as the new owner drove it away. My mother went to a jeweler and came back with $4,000 after selling her diamond earrings and a pearl necklace my grandmother had left her. She wouldn't look at me. She just put the cash on the hotel room table in silence. My father humiliated himself. He went back to the manufacturing plant he had retired from after 30 years and begged them for night shifts. At 64 years old, he was back on the factory floor, loading trucks from midnight to 8 a.m. His hands were blistered and raw. He would come home, exhausted, and hand over a few $100s in cash. Chloe tried selling her designer scarves and bags online, but most of them were fakes she'd bought to keep up appearances. She made a measly $350. It was a complete nightmare. They were drowning. Meanwhile, I was working. I couldn't just sit there. I had to save my car. I called my director at Apex and explained I had a family emergency. I asked if I could get my quarterly performance bonus, the one I had just earned by closing the Munich deal, paid out early. He was a good man. He didn't ask questions. He pushed it through. The next day, $15,000 hit my account. I didn't tell my family. This was my money, my safety net. With 3 days left, we all met at the hotel. Uncle David, Olivia, and me on one side of the room, my parents and Chloe on the other. They looked terrible. My father had lost weight and my mother's eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. "How much do you have?" Uncle David asked. My father placed a stack of cash and a cashier's check on the table. $19,500. "It's all we have. We sold everything we could. We tried to get a loan, but the bank said no. $19,500. It was nothing." I looked at my own bank account on my phone, my $15,000 bonus. We were still short. We were short by $10,050. "It's not enough," I said, my voice flat. "It's not even close." My mother started to sob. "We tried, Maya. We tried. There's nothing left." "So that's it?" I asked, my voice rising. "After all this? After ruining my credit? After forging my name? You just fail? And I lose my car? Is that how this ends?" No one said anything. They just stared at the floor. They had failed. Again. I felt a cold, hard anger. I had given them a chance. I had let them try to fix it, and they couldn't even do that. Uncle David looked at me, saw the look on my face, and sighed. He pulled a checkbook from his jacket pocket. "You're all pathetic," he said to my parents. He wrote out a check, not to them, but to me, Maya Evans. He tore it out and slid it across the table. It was for $11,000. "David? No," I whispered. "Family helps family," he said, looking pointedly at my father. "The right way. This is not a gift. It's a loan. And you will all be paying me back after you pay back Maya." The next morning was the 10th and final day. I walked into the bank with my $15,000 bonus, my family's $19,500, and Uncle David's $11,000 check. I had it all converted into a single cashier's check. I drove to Keystone Collateral alone. I walked in. Mr. Harris was waiting for me, looking stressed. "Miss Evans, you made it." "I have the check," I said, handing it to him. He examined it, ran it through a machine, and finally nodded. This is correct. $44,550. He typed on his computer for what felt like an eternity. Finally, I heard a printer whir to life. He printed a receipt, stamped it, paid in full, signed it, and handed it to me. "I'll have someone bring the car around," he said. I waited outside in the cracked parking lot. A minute later, I heard it. The low, deep rumble of my engine. My engine. It pulled around the corner, dirty from sitting, but it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. A man got out and handed me the keys. I got in and shut the door. The familiar smell of leather. I put my hands on the steering wheel. The keys were warm in my palm. The engine was purring as if nothing had ever happened. I put the car in gear and pulled out of the pawn shop parking lot. I drove away. I didn't cry. I just drove. I had my car back, but everything had changed. I spent the next 3 days in my hotel, just working, trying to reconnect with my real life. I had my car parked safely in the hotel garage, but I knew I wasn't finished. Then the text came from my mom. "Sunday dinner, 5 p.m. Dad's grilling steaks. Please come. We need to talk." My first instinct was to refuse. I was tired of their dinners, tired of their talks. But Uncle David, who was flying home that afternoon, advised me to go. "Go," he said. "See what they have to say. But don't you dare forgive them. Not yet." So I went. I drove my Mustang and parked it right in the driveway. It felt good to see it there. I walked in. The house was quiet. The good china was gone. We were eating on the everyday plates. My dad was at the grill. My mom was in the kitchen, and Chloe was just staring blankly at the TV. The silence was awkward and heavy. We sat down to eat. The steaks were overcooked. No one said a word for 10 minutes. It was the most honest meal we had ever had. Finally, my dad put down his fork. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his shirt pocket. He looked at me, his eyes red. "I wrote something down," he said, his voice thick. He unfolded the paper, his hands shaking so badly he could barely read it. "Maya," he started, "I betrayed your trust. I failed as your father. I stood by and I let your mother and your sister. I helped them. I helped them hurt you. I knew it was wrong. I was a coward. I have been a coward your whole life. I let you down. I am so sorry." He put the paper down, unable to look at me. He was crying, not loud sobs, but silent, heavy tears that rolled down his face. My mother watched him, but she wasn't crying. She just looked old and broken. Then Chloe whispered, "I'll pay you back, Maya. I'll pay back all of it. Yours and Uncle David's. I'm getting a job, a real one. I applied at the post office. I'll pay you back. Every cent." I looked at them, the three of them, defeated. This was it, the apology. It didn't bring a rush of love or forgiveness. I just felt empty. It was accountability, the beginning of it. But it wasn't enough. "I'm glad you feel that way," I said, my voice even, "because we're not done." The next day, I was in a high-rise office downtown, all glass and light wood. My lawyer, Ms. Chen, was a sharp, intelligent woman in a blue suit. I had found her online. She specialized in financial crimes. I spent an hour laying out the whole story: the car, the pawn ticket, the forgery, the business plan. She leaned back in her chair. "Miss Evans, let's be clear. You have an exceptionally strong case. Title fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. With your testimony and the pawn shop managers, they could all go to prison. Your parents for the fraud, your sister for conspiracy and receiving stolen funds. They would almost certainly be convicted." She let that hang in the air. Prison. I thought about my father's shaking hands, my mother's empty eyes, Chloe applying for a job at the post office. "I don't want them in prison," I said. Ms. Chen nodded. She'd expected this. "So what do you want? What is the alternative?" "I want to be repaid," I said, "all of it. The $44,550 for the car, the $11,000 for my uncle, the cost of my hotel for 2 weeks, the rental car, my lawyer's fees for this meeting, everything, and I want it to be legal and binding. I want them tied to this until it is done." Ms. Chen smiled, a sharp, thin smile. "That I can do." She slid a template across the desk. "A legal repayment contract. We will call it a promissory note and settlement agreement. It will outline the full debt in detail. We'll set a payment schedule with interest, and we will include a confession of judgment clause. It means if they miss a single payment, you can take them to court and win a judgment for the full remaining amount immediately without a trial. No jail, but it is binding. It will follow them forever until the debt is cleared." "That one," I said. "Do that one." We spent an hour drafting it. The total came to $64,300. We set the payment at $1,000 a month. It would take them over 5 years to pay it back. I called one final meeting, the next Sunday. Back at the house, I brought Miss Chen with me. My family was sitting on the sofa looking nervous. "This is Miss Chen," I said. "She's my lawyer." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Ms. Chen was all business. She placed the contract on the coffee table. "This is a legal repayment contract," she explained. "It details the debt you owe Maya Evans and David Evans. It stipulates a monthly payment of $1,000 due on the first of every month. It is non-negotiable." She fanned out 3 copies. "You will each sign. Mark, Sarah, Chloe. You are all equally responsible. If one of you can't pay, the other 2 must cover the difference. It's called joint and several liability." My father picked it up and read it, my mother reading over his shoulder. "It also states," Ms. Chen continued, "that in exchange for this, Maya will not pursue criminal charges." My father looked at me, a look of pure, desperate relief on his face. "Where do we sign?" he said. They signed it one by one. My father, his hand steady this time. My mother, her signature tight and angry. Chloe, a childish scrawl. I signed last. Ms. Chen notarized the documents. "You will receive a payment coupon book in the mail," she said. "The first payment is due in 2 weeks. Do not be late." We walked to the door. I looked back at them. 3 people sitting on a sofa, trapped by a piece of paper. I had my boundaries, and for the first time, they were law. Weeks later, the first check cleared. $1,000, a sterile electronic transfer into my bank account. It was the first of many. I had moved out of the hotel and into my own apartment in a new building downtown. I didn't need to stay in Chicago, but I wanted to. I didn't want to run. My Mustang was safe in the parking garage below. On a clear, cold Saturday in late autumn, I finally did what I'd been wanting to do for a year. I got in my car and drove west, out of the city toward the rolling hills. The air grew thin and cold as I gained elevation, and the sky was a deep, sharp blue. I rolled down the windows, and the crisp air rushed in, smelling of pine and earth. It felt like I could finally breathe. The engine was a deep, steady rumble beneath me. I wasn't driving fast, I just drove. I thought about my grandfather, Arthur, and his workshop. I remembered what he told me. "It's not the car that matters, May. It's what it represents." I finally understood what he meant. When I first bought this car, it represented success. It was a trophy, proof to my parents that I had earned something. I had been waving it in their faces, silently screaming, "See me, acknowledge me, be proud of me." And they had taken that trophy and crushed it. But now, driving on this open road, the car meant something different. It didn't represent my success anymore. It represented my worth. It wasn't a trophy. It was a survivor, just like me. I had fought for it. I had fought for myself. I had faced my family and their 30 years of lies, manipulation, and neglect. I had faced the little girl inside me who just wanted her parents to see her. And I had won. This car, this metal, this engine, it was the physical proof that I was done being their utility. I was done being the invisible one. I had drawn a line, built a boundary, and enforced it with the full weight of the law. I pulled over at a scenic viewpoint and got out. The wind was sharp. I looked out over the vast, silent valleys. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Olivia. "Brunch tomorrow, 10 a.m.?" I smiled. "Absolutely. See you then." I put my phone away. I had my chosen family. I had my job. I had my car. I thought about my parents and Chloe back in that house in that quiet suburb. They were probably in the kitchen, arguing about money, about who would pay what for the monthly check. They were trapped by their own actions, their own weakness, and by the contract they had signed. I didn't hate them. I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt quiet, a sense of pity. But mostly, I just felt free. I got back in the Mustang, turned the key, and the engine roared to life, its sound echoing off the hills. I turned the car back toward the highway. The road ahead was mine, and this time I was the only one behind the wheel. If you have ever had to fight for respect from your own family, if you've ever been the responsible one who gets taken for granted, remember this. Setting a boundary isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of self-preservation. It's the sound of you finally starting to heal. End of story.